Yo, what's going on YouTube? CloverBells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're doing another one of our tournament recaps, meta-analysis videos. And we're getting really close to Orlando now. We're just about a week away, and we're paying attention to a lot of these big or even small tournaments leading up to it, because this is all about foreshadowing for what's to come on that big weekend in Florida, right? So this was the tournament last night, the NinoPokeBros tour. Again, another big turnout, right? I think it was like almost 500 people if I were to show all the players here, and some stuff that's not so surprising, and then some stuff that was a little bit surprising. But again, we're gonna try and recap all that we can here, and just in terms of like interesting trends or some things to pay attention to, moving forward. Whether you're competing in a regional, whether it's Orlando or Knoxville or something else, or maybe just trying to get a team ready for Series 2 ladder. Either way, you still want to pay attention to this stuff. Because it's important, and if you're trying to build a team, you want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to make sure that you have respective checks and answers to common meta threats, right? That's why we do these kinds of videos. And again, I've gotten this question a lot, sometimes in the comments, where where do I see these tournaments? Where can I sign up? This is the Limitless website, right? So all you have to do is click tournaments, for example, and I'll right click that over here. All right, and you can see right in progress, right? We have the Beanie Brawl that's actually happening right now. The Hatterene series is also happening right now, but what you can do is just click the register button, and then you can sign up for one of these tournaments, right? So I've gotten that question quite a bit, so I wanted to address it at least right now in the beginning of the video while I have a chance. But yeah, get your practice, right? Because Series 2 still hasn't started yet, so if you want to try out some stuff, definitely want to register in these tournaments, right? But anyway, so now what we're gonna do is start recapping, starting with the winning team, and then we'll go forward with some of the other interesting trends, right? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, first thing we want to look at is let's look at Mr. Justin Burns' winning team. So this was basically, you in team preview you see, Flutter main Gothitelle. That only means one thing, right? It's going to be Perish, and usually the Perish is on the Flutter main, right? So the Gothitelle again is just meant to trap things, and then you can set a Perish on with the Flutter main, and just force your opponent to stay in there and then just take a bunch of damage and get trapped, right? Now the idea here with Iron Hands and Arcanine and Mungus Palafin. So we know what these guys can do. The Mungus is like good into Trick Room stuff, and then you're able to pivot in and out for the Perish stuff and just keep soaking up damage and regaining health back. That makes a lot of sense. And then the Arcanine is just like it's Arcanine. It does what Arcanine is supposed to do. Neuter special attackers with Snarl, Flare Blitz. And then sometimes you might see Will-O-Wisp here, but opted for a more aggressive approach with the Terra Normal E-Speed stuff. We've seen that before. And then even any kind of damage you take, the Gothitelle can just click Heal Pulse and stuff like that. So that's also really nice. And then the Palafin, this one, again with being able to pivot in and out. When you have the Perish stuff, then you can just activate 0 to hero, bring it back in, then it does a bunch of damage. And whatever is forced in, and if you want to switch it out, it can't, and you're forced to pretty much take a bunch of damage from the Palafin. So it makes a lot of sense. And of course the Volt Switch here on the Iron Hands, also good synergy with the Perish Song stuff, so allows for more pivot action. It's just like this team is meant for Perish pivoting, right? It's just like a lot of different tools, a lot of different things that you can have, and you're forcing your opponents out of position, because they're not really doing that much damage, right? Because like they're getting trapped with Perish, and then they have to constantly pivot in and out, to reset those Perish traps, and it just makes a lot of sense here. So great job from Mr. Justin Burns. Again, this playstyle is not for everyone. I believe like Perish trap stuff is like a little bit of a higher skill cap, because you have to be able to read and protect and fake out other stuff here and there, and then reposition all the time. But of course, Mr. Burns is able to do that relatively well. Been good for a very, very long time. But in terms of like other trends, so just keep on the same topic here of like what was dominant in Series 1. Dondozo is actually a lot of Dondozo. How many Dondozos in this top 38 cut? Let's see. This one almost did it, right? So I'm just gonna count him just because he's one place out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Dondozos pretty much, right? So that again, we said that Dondozo wasn't as good, in Series 2 as opposed to Series 1, but it's still very good. Okay, now and then this tournament is like a perfect result from it. And you see like some common things like with Dondozo, again, it can struggle against the Fluttermane, right? Because the Terra Dragon stuff, even though you want to go for the order up boost, you get smacked by, Fluttermane's fairy stuff. The Iron Hands has, the super effective electric move. So Dondozo has a tough time breaking it because, Iron Hands also has a really, really good physical defense. So you have that. There's Amoonguss a lot, with Amoonguss everywhere. I said Amoonguss a lot. Clear Smog stuff, that's also still around. But, again, you can still see that doesn't matter, right? As long as you're able to play well with Dondozo, you're still able to do relatively well with it. And a lot of these have like a ground coverage move, which is important. Again, I can't stress that enough with the ground coverage thing in my like last 3 or 4 videos, because the ground coverage is the difference maker in a lot of these teams. So let's take a look. Yeah, so this one is Order Up, Earthquake, and and then the Protect set with leftovers, of course. How about here? This Dondozo is it Earthquake? Yep, another Earthquake Dondozo. The one above it here, Mr. Water, Earthquake. Okay, yep. And then this one, we'll just check one more here. Yuri. Yep, or Earthquake. Yeah, I don't need to check anymore. I'm pretty sure a lot of them have it. Not all of them, right? I think, but most of them did have like a ground coverage move on the Dondozo, or some ground typing elsewhere, right? So then you also see like Iron Moth stuff. Like some people have asked me like what would be like the best or easiest way to use Iron Moth, and that's with the Dondozo team along with Fluttermane, right? So if we look at Torviv's team, I think it's a perfect example, because here you can see again the Iron Moth is going for the Acid Spray tech, which makes the Fluttermane with all choice specs already do a bunch of damage. And again, Iron Moth is really fast, so you're able to go for an Acid Spray in the beginning, and you might even like make this a little bit slower, right? Because like you want the Acid Spray to go first. So sometimes you might even see like Scarf Iron Moth and then like Specs Fluttermane, for example. But either way, it's really cool. And then you can even go like Acid Spray and benefit your own Tatsugiri. And the Tatsugiri can take advantage of the special defense drops anyway, right? But that's the easiest way, right? Like with Iron Moth, Fluttermane, Dondozo, Tatsugiri, sometimes you might even see like Goldango on these teams, because it can also benefit from the Acid Spray stuff. Yeah, see something like this, right, with Mystic Box. So same idea here, right? So booster energy, right? You probably get a speed boost there, so you're faster than your Fluttermane. And then, the Goldango can benefit, right? So this makes a lot of sense. And then sometimes you even see like King Gamut Goldango, like double steal on a Dondozo Tatsugiri squad. This is actually a very, very standard Dozo Giri with like Iron Moth Fluttermane stuff, right? With the double steal. So that's always there. And again, you probably will see that in Orlando. So if you're trying to play there, be ready. Do you have what it takes to stop Dondozo, Tatsugiri, along with Iron Moth Fluttermane, right? I think that's something that's important moving forward. And it's been there in the tours leading up to even this one. And you might even see it again in the Beanie Brawl later tonight. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But again, respect Dondozo. So if you're building for Orlando or Knoxville, or just like for Series 2 in general, respect Dondozo. You must have a check to it. It's not as strong as Series 1, but still very, very good. I give it in the high B tier, which we will also do again later in a couple of days. A new tier list leading up to Series 2. But again, respect Dondozo. It's doing a lot, especially with like these Fluttermane stuff. They're all going like specs. And even this one. Like, let's look at this one, just this last one. Is this specs? Okay, this one is just booster energy, but with Moonblast, right? So a little bit more extra damage, makes a lot of sense. And there's my favorite fire type, the Volcarona over here, with struggle. Oh, and this one has Tailwind, so that's actually really nice. So instead of like a Talonflame Goldango with Fluttermane, then you have like Volcarona in here with like a Tailwind set with Struggle Bug. So like it's a supportive set. This is like my favorite supportive set with like Struggle Bug, Rage Powder, Tailwind. We've done that before. And this was either like Rocky Helmet or Citrus Berry. So it makes a lot of sense. I really like that. All right, so let's keep on going with the next topic and see what other trends did we see. All right, the next thing I want to look at is there was a lot more Great Tusk, a little bit more than normally you would see, right? And makes a lot of sense. But the rise in like these Iron Hand squads, like if you look at Iron Hands, right? How many are in the top 8? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Iron Hands in the top 8. Okay, we need a way to respect that, and that this is why you're going to start to see the rise, even more of a rise in Great Tusk stuff. And again, we stress the ground coverage a lot, and we're going to do it again in another time step in the same video. But this is why like Great Tusk is doing well. And what's also interesting is the pairing with Great Tusk along with Goldango and even like Talonflame stuff. So like Great Tusk with Talonflame, you'll see a lot So like right here, like they're within 16, 17, 18, right? From Battle Room, Zelda Box, and William. So like right here with Great Tusk and Talonflame, I think this is a really nice duo along with the bundle, just because, you know, you can Tailwind, and then the Great Tusk doesn't have to go for Headlong Rush anymore. You can go for Earthquake over here, and, you know, because you're a flying type, you know, just you're able to do that here. And then Dragonite was a smart pairing here. You could even like consider Salamence if you want an Intimidate support, but you can Earthquake next to Dragonite because, again, Dragonite is also a flying type. And he has a little bit more extra damage here with the Assault Vest Dragonite, which also won a previous tournament. So, you know, Colin from Battle Room is taking full advantage of the tools that Dragonite can give you here with like the E-Speed stuff. Of course, Terra Normal. The Ice Spinner is great, you know, ice coverage against, you know, other dragons, other flying types, like even the Roaring Moon that wants to go flying with the acrobatic sets. So that's also really nice. And then the Ice Spinner is really good against the ground types in general, right? Like like an opposing Great Tusk or a Sandy Shocks in general, or the Terra Ground Sylveons that could be running around. So Ice Spinner is like good coverage there. And then Dragon Claw, of course, your Dragon Stab in case the other dragons like a Roaring Moon doesn't, you know, Terra. And then Iron Hand is really good like against other fairies, right? So he's got, you know, 4 really, really good coverage moves here. But again, the whole idea is like Great Tusk, Talonflame, Goldango, and the bundle, right? I feel like this is a good solid 4, okay? And then, you know, a dragon type slapped on here, and then maybe either Amoonguss or Brutte Bonnet. And we'll talk about Brutte Bonnet again in another timestamp, because there was quite a few of these in the tournament, and I expect that to maybe, I don't know if it'll rise, but, you know, I think it's something that still can do well, right? Despite the fact that Amoonguss is the quote-unquote better of the two. But, you know, if we look at another team underneath Colin right here, where is it? Right here, Zelda? No, right here. Wait, oops. Right here, this is what I meant, Million. So William, again, same concept, right? You know, Talonflame, Great Tusk, Iron Bundle, slap on a dragon here. And then, you know, the concept is the same, but this one is Life Orb with Protect. Makes a lot of sense. So 2 ground stabs and then close combat, you know, Protect is nice here. So a little bit more extra damage, but again, still able to, you know, click Earthquake. And instead of Dragonite here, you have the Hydreigon. And again, with Hydreigon, you have Levitate. So same concept, you're able to still Earthquake next to it. And, you know, this is also smart with the Hydreigon placement on a team like this, because, you know, with the Dark typing, you're still able to put pressure on like other Goldangos, you know, potentially, you know, other ghost types that still might be running around. Like some stuff is going for Terra Ghost, for example, to dodge the fighting coverage that's running around in the Marina. So Hydreigon does have that niche going for it at the very least. And this is a Snarl set, which is actually really nice. So with Snarl, again, you're able to, you know, shut down other special attackers like another bundle, like another Flutter main. And the Terrafire is really nice for that, you know, Flutter main matchup. So I think that's smart. But same kind of concept that Colin was trying to do, just a little bit of a few different mons there. But the core is there. Okay, and then if you look at, well, this is another Great Tusk team. We actually built this team for a view, or for, you know, as part of our tier 3 sub. When we were talking about Great Tusk, this was like the template. And then somebody, you know, did a tier sub and say, hey, can you build that team with the EVs? And, you know, similar idea. Again, with Goldango and Iron Bundle here. And then a Dragon type here with Terra Flying. Again, you're still able to Earthquake next to it, which makes a lot of sense. And here's the Arcanine instead of the Talonflame. But I feel like Talonflame could do really well on these Great Tusk teams along with Goldango. It makes a lot of sense, right? So, again, it's a common template that you're seeing, you know, running around here. Where's another Great Tusk team? This is the same concept. This one's another different. It's a Trick-room oriented Great Tusk team. So there's that idea. And here's another one. All right, Talonflame, Great Tusk, Earthquake next to Talonflame. You're able to Earthquake also next to another person. You know, instead of a Dragon type, all right, you still have something with Levitate. You know, Rotom Wash also makes sense here. And then you have Tyranitar and Sylveon, right? The T-Tar, we talked about T-Tar in our other video when we did it with Deagle Beagle, you know, the Terra Flying stuff, or Assault Vest Tyranitar rather. It makes a lot of sense in this meta. So, you know, great job there. And is there another Great Tusk here? This one is with, okay, so same concept, right? You know, similar. The Merca, which you don't really see anymore. But again, it's like Talonflame, Prankster, Tailwind, and you're able to Earthquake next to it. You have a Roaring Moon with Terra Flying. Again, you can Earthquake next to that as well. And instead of the, you know, Goldango, you have the King Gambit. So this way you can't really intimidate, you know, these two, or else you get punished. I mean, you still can, you know, you just give the King Gambit to find who's And there's my favorite fire type, the Volcarona here, doing, just chilling here, giving support with Rage Powder redirection stuff, Struggle Bug, neutering special attackers, right? Trying to fill that Arcanine role a little bit in a way, and here's the Rocky Helmet. So, but yeah, if you want to like keep using your Great Tusk squads again, I definitely recommend like some strong Tailwinder, a priority Tailwinder like a Talonflame, and slap on that Steel type, slap on something else that you can Earthquake next to. I mean, the template is there. We just talked about it. So, but yeah, again, with the Great Tusk, the whole point is to put pressure not only on like the other fire types and the other steel types, but the Iron Hands, right? Because the Iron Hands is weak to ground stuff, right? And you can win that matchup if it's one-on-one because they can't use their electric move on you, right? So, but yeah, that's about it for Great Tusk. I think it'll, be quite prevalent coming up in Orlando. So definitely want to prepare for that if that is something that, you're trying to consider. All right, on to the next one. So when we did another one of these tournament recaps, we were talking about like the plethora of the fire types that are very flexible on certain teams, like Arcanine, Volcarona, the Armarouge, and then stuff like Talonflame is now running around, and even the Rotoms are still there a little bit, and then the thing that I've noticed also is like the Armarouge stuff is actually popping up a little bit more. Now this might be just like tournament specific, but like look how many Armarouge are in the top cut. Let's see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 7 Armarouges. Is there any more? There might be a little bit more that I missed. All right, so 7 Armarouges within like top cut. That's actually a lot. So, and then the idea here is, well, what is it supposed to do? Remember our first team building video with Iron Hands, right? Because with Iron Hands and even Great Tusk running around, you have, look at this, you have more, not really like the same Pokemon, but you have like 2 strong physical attackers that have great physical defense, a lot of HP, okay, but not so great special defense. And at the same time, they have this fighting typing, which means they're weak to special attack psychic attacks, right? And this is where Armarouge can really shine in a tour like this. And that's why I wanted to do that in our first team building video. So if you didn't watch that one, make sure you check that out on the channel, because I think Armarouge and also Volcarona are like the 2 best fire types. Like I know you guys are like Arcanine simps out there, but to me the best ones are the Armarouge and the Volcarona, right? But again, back to the Armarouge topic. What does it do? Like the psychic typing is really great, and then you have like expanding. You can have expanding force if you're paired with Indeedee, and a lot of Indeedees are popping up now. And the whole idea with Indeedee Armarouge, right? This is something that has been done in Series 1, but now you're able to redirect, and the psychic normal typing is good against like the fighting stuff, right? Because you're able to take neutral damage, and then you have the psychic spam with the Armarouge stuff like that, right? So the Iron Hands and the Great Tusk will have a little bit of trouble against like the Indeedee Armarouge, and I think you have to prepare for that if again you're going to Orlando, or if you're trying to prepare for like Knoxville stuff. And now Knoxville's still far, so I'm more stressing like Orlando and the start of Series 2 in general. But if you're an Iron Hands player, or if you're a Great Tusk player, you gotta have something for Indeedee Armarouge stuff, right? Because the psychic stuff is just gonna deal so much damage, and if they're Life Orb, you're gonna be in for it, right? And then you might see stuff like this with Palafin on teams like this, because what they're trying to do is do like the weakness policy, weak armor stuff, flip turn into their Armarouge, deal a bunch of damage, activate the weakness policy, swap into Indeedee, so this way you don't go for your priority stuff, and then support, and then just do like a bunch of damage with the expanding force. Weakness policy of weak armor, expanding force can just like one-shot an entire team, right? So you don't want to like get smacked by that. So make sure you plan for this. And this is actually really smart team building, and that's why I clicked on this team, because not only do you have that combination with Indeedee, Palafin, Armarouge, but you also have like the rain stuff with Pelipper, Palafin, and the Amoonguss. So you have the rain core along with King Gambit, right? And King Gambit is a steel type. So if you have like Palafin, Pelipper, Amoonguss plus a steel type, that's the rain core. And then you have the Indeedee Armarouge stuff, for the slow Trick Room stuff along with Palafin. I think this is like a really, really good solid team. And this is like, might be the premier rain team at the moment, right? Where you can have the Armarouge there. And you might be confused as to why you would have Armarouge on a rain team. It's not necessarily meant to be played in rain, right? It can, because you also have Terra Grass, which can also like reduce fire damage in general. But when you're in the rain, then again, you also have like flash fire, but you don't have flash fire anymore, right? You have the weak armor. So this is really, really smart by this player. I don't know who he is, but this makes a lot of sense. And I do want to build this in the team builder, just for the sake of like having it. And if you're interested in that, you can do a tier sub and, you can have these EV spreads. But anyway, I digress. But what you're also going to see is like Armarouge along with like Brutte Bonnet. And that's the next thing I want to talk about here. But again, Armarouge has a place because of that psychic coverage. And again, with Indeedee stuff, like you just see Indeedee Armarouge everywhere. And, it just makes so much sense with all like the Iron Hands and the Great Tusk that are running around. So definitely prepare for that. If that is, something that wasn't on your radar, make sure it is on your radar. All right, let's talk about Brutte Bonnet. All right, we're back to the other age-old argument here with Brutte Bonnet and Amoonguss. So again, we've already discussed this, and there's like a bunch of videos on these two. Like, which one do you think is like best? I mean, the Amoonguss has like better typing with like grass poison. You're able to resist the fighting moves in general, whereas Brutte Bonnet is weak against the fighting stuff. So stuff like, whatchamacallit, the Iron Hands is able to, click a fighting move into this and, just pretty much remove it from the field. It is bulkier. It does have a lot of damage, right? 127 and, a little bit more speed. But overall, the Amoonguss is the better Trick Room mon in general, and then the better typing, and then Regenerate is really good in terms of pivoting. Photosynthesis, I mean, you have to like give this thing a boost energy, but then like most of the time it's going to be given to like, the Iron Bundle or the Roaring Moon, but you can technically give this thing something else, but it can still give, your team an added amount of offensive pressure that you normally would not get with Amoonguss, right? So if we take a look at some of these teams, how they were using it, I think the best thing to do is pair it with a Psychic type because you're weak to the fighting stuff. So the best thing to do is pair it with a Psychic Pokemon, and you saw that with the Armarouge stuff, right? So let's find some Armarouge teams, and you'll see there's a lot of Brutte Bonnet. I think there was like 5 Brutte Bonnet teams in the top cut, which is why I wanted to cover it, because it's something that wasn't really done elsewhere in the other tours. You may have saw maybe like 1 Brutte Bonnet, but like here there are 5, so let's see why. So this is like pure, this was like Armarouge, and then here's Brutte Bonnet. Loaded dice with Bullet Seed. That's another thing that was actually kind of interesting. And then of course, Sucker Punch, Spore, Rage Powder, right? The typical Amoonguss coverage here with Spore and Rage Powder. So makes a lot of sense. The Indeedee gives you Trick Room. The Torkoal can sweep with it. The Fluttermane has Trick Room as well, so that's also really nice. I love Fluttermane Trick Room. I think we did that in our first team building with the Iron Hands. And then here's the armor stuff, right? So good coverage there. Helps the Brutte Bonnet a lot, especially when you have Psychic and Fairy coverage. So nice job there. Here's another one, right, with Brutte Bonnet, and again the Psychic coverage with the Armarouge just to like cover for that fighting weakness. And then you have like a Ghost type here with the Annihilate, and also makes a lot of sense here. And then there's the Indeedee, and then there's the Torkoal. Right? A little bit more Torkoal in this tournament, but not so much. I think these are like the only 2. Okay. Here's another one again from Volvo Max Ben. Again, Indeedee Armarouge with the Brutte Bonnet. Again the Psychic coverage helps a lot. And then if I just look at one more team over here with Brutte Bonnet, yeah, see, and this one, even with the Dondozo Tatsugiri core, you still see the Indeedee Brutte Bonnet Armarouge core, so that's also really nice. Again, that's pretty much the way to do it. Like if you want to use Brutte Bonnet, you have to have Psychic coverage on your squad to help compensate for that fighting weakness. And then the Ghost type in general is also really nice. And here there was Terra type of Ghost here. So again, this is the whole point of the Brutte Bonnet, is to like, instead of just being so passive with the Amoonguss, you want to exert some pressure with your dark coverage and your grass coverage. And Brutte Bonnet with the base attack of 127 is actually really strong with that, and it's bulky in general, so it's going to be hard to remove even though it doesn't have Regenerator, but it has some use. You just have to pair it with the right partners. So as long as you got Indeedee Armarouge along with the Brutte Bonnet, that's what you want. All right, so again, something that you could see moving forward. I want to see what the Beanie Brawl looks like in terms of this to like make any more like conclusions off of that. But it was nice. It was interesting to see like within this tournament in the top cut that you did see a little bit more Brutte Bonnet than normal. All right, let's take a look at other stuff. All right, and again, this is another topic that we've reiterated again in our previous videos, and we touched upon it again here. The importance of ground coverage. Okay, and again, the reason being, you want to beat that Iron Hands mirror, or not even if it is a mirror. If you don't even have your own Iron Hands, you need something for it, right? So either ground typing or ground coverage, very important. And you might say, well, what about like the iron bundles running around? That's okay. Okay, you still have answers for the iron bundle on the rest of your team, but the typing is important. You can't just lose to Iron Hands just instantly, you know, without having a check for it, right? You'll have something for the iron bundle later on, I'm sure, right? Or, you know, you should be already respecting it, but at the very least, you need some offensive coverage to deal with the Iron Hands, or even like a Terra Ground option for it, right? So you have some options here within the top cut. Like you do see a couple Sandy Shock teams. You know, I think there's like 2 or 3 of them within the top cut, so that makes a lot of sense. And you do see a couple of Gashadons, you know, especially with like that Terrafire option, you know, just so that you can wall the bundle. Again, we talked about that. But, you know, you also have the rise of the Great Tusk teams, right? This is also why, you know, they started 2 rise, because the Great Tusk can deal with the Iron Hands, okay? And we did mention about Terra Ground Sylveon. If you look at the other, you know, previous Beanie Brawl tool, I believe it was 3 Sylveon in the top 8, and they were all Terra Ground, okay? So if there is any reason why you should use it, definitely do consider using Terra Ground Sylveon. It just makes a lot of sense. So if we just go ahead and list like some of those common ground types one more time. Okay, you want to either you have something like Great Tusk, you have Sylveon with that Terra Ground option. Where is it? Right here. And you have a Gashadon with, you know, that's already a ground type with like a Terrafire option to help you wall the bundle. All right, these are like 3 very good things. And then of course we talked about Sandy Shocks here. And again, these are not like necessarily splashable. It really all depends on your team, but you got to have something for it, right? And then the last one that we mentioned in our ground coverage video was Mudsdale. And I already know who's watching my videos. Where is he? All right, where's my guy Jonathan? If I just type in Jonzu, right? Oh, there it is. Hey, Jonathan, if you're watching this video, all right, shout outs to my guy Jonzu. Again, he top cut with Mudsdale, which is the 5th option that we had on our list here. And again, this is back in our ground coverage video, because again, if you look at Mudsdale, like let's see what build he was running. Assault Vest, which I totally agree with. Okay, stamina, very, very nice. You get a defense boost, and it's a body press set, right? And then look at this, high horsepower. Of course, Rock Tomb speed control is actually interesting. I didn't consider that on Mudsdale. And this one, of course, the steel coverage is really nice for, you know, opposing Flutter mains, opposing Sylveons, whatnot, right? Because Sylveon can just, you know, deal a bunch of damage into the Dragonite Iron Hand stuff. So, you know, this makes a lot of sense. You could even consider Inner Focus so you don't get Intimidate spam. But, you know, like, you don't care about that because you're going for the body press set, right? So you don't really care about Intimidate. So shout outs there. You know, it makes a lot of sense. You know, and especially if you have like Trick Room on this team, but there's a Farigiraf. Hey, makes a lot of sense. And then Fluttermane Parasong is again a menace. You know, that's pretty much the title of our video, you know, because it pretty much won the tour from Mr. Burns. But again, Mudsdale is something that should be explored, and don't be surprised if this top cuts Orlando. Okay, I'm gonna say it right now. Whoever wants to bring Mudsdale into Orlando, you will top cut. I'm gonna say that right now. You will top cut if you are going to use Mudsdale on your team. But you gotta have the right team for it, okay? Don't just slap it onto some Tailwind stuff and say, oh, hey, you lied to me. I thought it was gonna top cut. No, it's gotta be on the right team, okay? So just be aware of that. But again, these are like your common ground type stuff. So make sure that you have something for these, okay? Or if you need it, consider it as an option, all right? So let's keep on going. All right, next thing I want to look for is Maushold. Okay, so we said that, you know, Maushold kind of had struggled a little bit in Series 2, not as much as Series 1 in terms of prevalency, but again, now it's back a little bit, but it has a different kind of set with it, right? And we saw it in the previous video that we did with Deagle Beagle, and it's a supportive set with Friend Guard, right? And that's the way to probably use Maushold moving forward. So let's take a look at this team over here. And again, here's Maushold, here's Annihilate. Of course, it's you know, the Friend Guard stuff with Super Fang, Beat Up, and Follow Me, right? So this is a typical supportive set. Again, you know, you're just adding bulk to your partners. You know, Iron Hands, Farigiraf, Torkoal, these are like relatively bulky moms already. But then you add that to your Fluttermane, and then now the Fluttermane can now take these hits that normally would KO. And I know there's a Sash here, but you know, if this was like a Specs Fluttermane, now you can also rely on Maushold with like helping hand stuff, right? And that's what Deagle Beagle did. But again, this is more for the Annihilate stuff, which you also didn't really see anymore because it would just get smacked by Fluttermane, get smacked by Roaring Moon. You know, just those two alone would just like kind of end this thing. And then, you know, some of the other ghost coverages like Goldango was a threat to annihilate, but you can still play it, right? But yeah, I mean, the supportive set of Maushold with Friend Guard is really, really good. Let's take a look at this one. This one is on a Dondozo Tatsugiri thing. And again, Friend Guard, you know, beat up, follow me, you know, and then of course Encore, right? And again, here's the Annihilate stuff. So it still works, okay? It's just not as prevalent, but it still works. And you might not see the Annihilate in general, but you can still see the Maushold, right? So I think there's still a couple of Maushold teams that don't even use the Annihilate. Like, let's look at this one, right? There was actually just 2 that we just passed. So right here, right? So again, another Dondozo stuff, but again, here's Feint, so you can break Protect. And again, it's Friend Guard with Super Fang, follow me. You know, that's something to respect there. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna put on pressure, but like Super Fang still does a, you know, a good percentage of your HP, right? So if I click on this one, yeah, you see another one. And yeah, there's Friend Guard, follow me, Encore Super Fang. Yeah, so like it's there, okay? And should you be worried about it? Maybe a little bit. You know, it's hard to break through, right? Because it's pretty much just like screens on light mode, you know, with Friend Guard, and you know the Maushold can just like whiff at the sight of like a breath of fresh air, but like it's still there, okay? So you want to respect it a little bit, not like so much as like some of the other big threats, but like just be aware and don't be surprised if you do see it, right? But yeah, I just wanted to make note of that. And if you do want to try Maushold, I definitely recommend, again, with the Fluttermane stuff, okay? Because, you know, you're just able to redirect everything from the Fluttermane and just keep clicking Choice Specs, Dazzling Gleam, or Choice Specs, whatever, and it just runs through, right? So definitely be aware of that. All right, so now we're going to go into my little Google Slides notes here as like a little bit of a wrap up here. So in a nutshell, I mean, you know, these are like some of the big takeaways that I want to go over. And again, you know, the whole thing moving forward, especially leading up into Orlando or the start of Series 2, is be aware of this Perish team, right? So again, with Fluttermane, Gothitelle, you know, the Fluttermane is going to have the Perish, the Gothitelle is going to be trapping you, and then you have like stuff with Palaf and Amoonguss to support that core. I think those 4 are very, very good. All right, and then from there, it's probably like Volt Switch, Iron Hands plus some filler. But ideally, this is something that you have to prepare for. You still got to respect Garganical and Dondozo teams, right? They're still around. And again, if we go back into the Nino Tour, how many Garganicals did you see? 1 here, 1 there, 2, 3, okay, 4, 5, and then this one almost like 6, 7 right here. You know, again, Garganical is still very, very strong. And then you just saw like there was like 8 Dondozos within like the top 38 right here. So again, be aware of that. You still gotta respect it. Sylveon, you know, even if you don't see Fluttermanes on those teams, you know, a strong fairy is important, especially with like Roaring Moons and then, you know, Iron Hands and you know, the Great Tusk running around. So the fairy coverage is still important. And if you don't want to use, you know, Fluttermane because it's kind of like frail, then the Sylveon is still very strong to use, right? And you know, in the last tournament, you saw like 3 Terra Ground Sylveons within like the top 10. Here, I think there's like about 5 Sylveons within like this top 40, so it's still a very, very strong alternative. So be aware of that. Indeedee Armarouge cores, again, you know, because of the fighting coverage, and again, because you're able to deal much better with the Great Tusk and the Iron Hands, it makes a lot of sense that the Indeedee Armarouge stuff, you know, will rise. Kingambit, Goldango, pretty standard there. You know, that hasn't really changed. Those are still the 2 premier steel types that you might have. The Fire, Water, Grass cores, they're very flexible in the sense like, yeah, you'll still get like Arcanine, Amoonguss, and the Iron Bundle, but you'll also still see like the occasional Volcaronas. Of course, you still have Amoonguss, and then your water typing can be like Rotom. There was still a couple of Tauros running around. That's still okay. Not as much as before because Iron Hands ended him, but that's still running around. So your water options are a little bit more flexible than before. You might even see like Terra Water, Volcarona. Palafin is still good. But again, Arcanine, Amoonguss, Iron Bundle are still pretty good. And then, the Dragonite stuff, right? Yo, if you looked here, how many Dragonites were in top 5? There was like 5, right? And a lot of them were either like this Assault Vest set or like this Choice Band set. Here, let me just find like one. Here, let me pick Collins here. This was the Assault Vest Dragonite, right? We talked about that a little bit. But still, like, Choice Band E-Speed is pretty strong. Like, here, we'll look at this one. And they paired it with the Stone Journer just for like a little bit more extra coverage. So, you know, be aware of that. You probably see these two a little bit, you know, Stone Journer, Dragonite, of course. But, you know, the fact that this thing is still very much playable, is still very good in Series 2 and even in Series 1, it just goes to show you that Dragonite is still a very, very good Pokemon, right? So that's pretty much it. I'm still paying attention to the Beanie Brawl, so let's see how that turns out later tonight. You know, I'm watching it on the other screen. But as far as like the Nino Tour as of last night, like, again, one more week into Orlando, this is what you have to be aware of as of this moment, right? So we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.